You know, you may have noticed someone wearing a purple ribbon in the past few weeks, which is in recognition of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. According to the Centers for Disease Control, one in four women experience domestic violence once in their lifetime, at least once. Domestic violence also has a very negative impact, of course, on children who are either witnesses or victims themselves. Dr. Vicki Wadowich from Daniel joins us this morning to talk about the effects and the consequences that domestic violence has on particularly kids. And it makes sense because, you know, and oftentimes I think you guys, what we've found out is that you guys find that kids in relationships where the woman is abused are often, the kids are abused too, right?
Correct, that's correct. We know, unfortunately, that's a common occurrence, and we know that children, primarily we know that half the men who frequently assault their wives will go on to assault and abuse their children. And this abuse is physical, sexual, and emotional. What are the short-term effects on kids, and what are the long-term effects on kids? Okay. We know that abuse does have long-term and immediate consequences on children, and some of the immediate effects on children can be emotional problems. This can be anger, depression. It could be guilt because they can't protect their loved one. It could be social problems. They withdraw from their family and friends. Physical effects. They may be experiencing stomach aches and stomach complaints, and of course behavioral problems where they act out because they're angry, and children have a tendency to show what they know and what they've learned and they've lived with. And we know the long-term effects of this is that, you know, children who have experienced abuse or who just witness it will go on to, may often not go on to continue the cycle of domestic violence.
So they'll grow up and they may abuse the women or children in their relationships.
Yes, we know that boys. We know that boys who have witnessed their fathers beating their mothers or their female caregivers, they're 10 times more likely to be abusive in their own relationships. Girls, on the other hand, are more likely to tolerate being abused. And we know that children who grow up in violent homes are more likely to drop out of school. They're more likely to experiment or use drugs and alcohol, and they're also more likely to suffer depression as adults.
So this is it's a vicious cycle. You know, you hear it before. You create, you know, if you're abusive in your relationship, if you're the abuser, you create people who may go on to do the same when they grow up.
Absolutely. Children who grow up in homes of conflict and violence, they don't learn the coping skills and they don't learn the conflict resolution skills that they need to be successful adults. So what they do is they act out what they know.
Yeah. And again, a kid doesn't even have to be physically abused. I mean, he just has to, he can be there to witness it.
Absolutely.
And suffer the effects, suffer the consequences. If you think this is going on, what's your advice for somebody who wants to try to help somebody, help a kid or a wife, girlfriend?
Well, there are some children who either are abused or who witness it. Abused children will not, for the most part, in most cases, don't come out and tell you they're being abused, either because they're afraid or because they're don't want to portray the feel like they're betraying the abuser. Right. But they might experience some similar warning signs, and some of these might be things like sleeplessness, irrational fears. They shy away from touch. They isolate themselves. Weight gain or weight loss, anxiety, depression, angry outbursts. And in the state of Florida, if a person has a reasonable cause to believe that a child is being abused, neglected, or abandoned, they have a duty to immediately call the Florida Abuse Hotline.
Okay, and so that's your recommendation, that's where to go?
Absolutely, okay. And that number is 1-800-96-ABUSE.
Okay, well that's good advice. Wow, it's an awful topic, but thank you for coming on and talking to us about it. If you'd like more information on this topic or other family-related issues, you can go to news4jax.com. Click on the Scene on 4 tab and look under Weekend Headlines.
He gonna appreciate you when you gone too late for that. Don't look back, just move on.
I need y'all to keep y'all head up, you feel me?
Be strong,
I go by the brain.
be strong, the story of a life, he do wrong and she stay. Love at first sight, the cliche that he say. But ask yourself if it's love at first sight. Why every time he get drunk, he put a punch to your side. Eyes all swollen, his pride all swollen. He know you could do better, so he try to be controlling. 9 months going on 10, oh man. Devastated realizing that you got the wrong man. Kids keep coming, hits keep coming. Late night phone calls from girlfriends keep coming. You wanna leave, but the rent keep coming. And you gave them all your years, you ain't had a job in years. Driving home.